At 3:12 a.m. on the southern edge of the Zagros Mountains, inside the Combat Information Center, aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, a senior sensor analyst locked onto a ground-penetrating radar feed coming from a loitering RQ-180 stealth drone. Combat, we have an anomaly in Sector 7 Delta. It's 400 feet below the rubble of the Phantom base we hit 4 hours ago. Spectral analysis confirms uranium-235 particulates in the ventilation exhaust. Tehran didn't just build a decoy base. They hid a secret laboratory beneath it. That discovery sent an immediate shock through Central Command. The earlier strike that took apart the coastal fastboat docks had only been the beginning. Beneath the limestone shelf of the Zagros Range, Iran had concealed a second heavily protected nuclear site, a maze of underground tunnels that appeared on U.S. displays like a digital spiderweb. Tehran responded at once, activating concealed air defense units and ballistic missile batteries across the region. At that point, Washington was no longer preparing for a limited clash. The objective had become complete destruction of the underground complex. But breaking through a mountain demanded more than American firepower alone. It required a fully coordinated regional coalition. A strike on a deeply fortified bunker in the heart of Iran called for more than brute force. It demanded an entire network working as one. Within an hour of the rivet joint's discovery, the U.S. activated its regional partnerships. This became the first real high-intensity test of the Middle East's integrated air defense architecture. Israel supplied the leading edge of the operation with a squadron of F-35E Adirs. These fifth-generation stealth aircraft were the only platforms capable of moving through the dense electromagnetic environment over the Zagros Range without being locked by Iran's remaining long-range sensors. The United Arab Emirates and Jordan formed the defensive screen, bringing their ground-based air defense networks online to watch for any retaliatory ballistic missile launches. The mission itself was exceptionally difficult. The second laboratory was buried beneath a jagged limestone overhang that naturally deflected incoming bombs. To eliminate it, the U.S. needed the GBU-57A/B Massive Ordnance Penetrator, a 30,000-pound bunker-busting weapon built for deeply buried targets. There was one major complication. The MOP can only be carried by the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, an aircraft with the wingspan of a football field. Getting that massive bomber through Iran's layered air defense grid meant every Allied asset had to move in perfect sync. Tehran understood the next move was coming. Iranian planners had expected the first base to be lost, and they had used that window to transform the surrounding Zagros valleys into a radar silent trap. As the Allied strike package crossed the border, Iran avoided switching on its larger, easier-to-detect radar systems. Instead, it relied on passive sensors, tracking the heat signatures of jet engines as they bounced off the mountain walls. Buried deep inside the granite crevices were older MIM-23 Hawk batteries, along with the newer and far more dangerous Bavar 373 systems. These units were linked through hardened fiber optic khatat, which meant U.S. signals intelligence couldn't intercept their coordination. Missile launch, 3 o'clock. It's coming from the canyon floor. A Jordanian F-16 Block 60 flying low as part of the escort formation was the first to feel how deadly the mountain terrain had become. An Iranian Bavar 373 missile fired from a camouflage truck hidden inside a cave and shot upward. The pilot had less than 4 seconds to respond. He dropped flares and pulled into a brutal 9G brake, but the tight terrain left almost no room to maneuver. The missile detonated close enough to tear into the F-16's engine. The A-10s already on station reacted instantly, banking into a low-altitude attack pattern. The lead pilot steadied the aircraft, lined up the target, and opened fire with the GAU-8 Avenger. The 30mm cannon tore across the limestone ridge where an Iranian Manpads team was shifting position for another shot. Red dust and shattered rock exploded into the air as the rounds ripped through the cave entrance and brought part of the overhang down. Target neutralized. Second team moving in from the North Ridge, rolling in again with Hydra rockets. The pilot switched weapons, dropped toward the valley floor, and released a salvo of folding fin rockets that turned the Iranian staging zone into a wall of flame. Ejecting, Rivet 1. We have a pilot down. Repeat, Allied pilot down in the Zagros Range. In that moment, the operation spiraled into a violent, fast-moving fight across air, land, and electronic warfare. As the pilot's parachute drifted toward the hostile mountain slopes, Iranian ground units, including IRGC tunnel teams, emerged from hidden shafts and moved to capture him. The U.S. and its regional partners were now taking losses, and the carefully built plan was being rewritten in real time under intense anti-air fire. The downed F-16 and the growing danger to the pilot forced CENTCOM to raise the pressure. If Iran intended to use the mountains as protection, the coalition would make those same mountains expose every hidden position. The USS Arleigh Burke and USS Cole, operating in the Arabian Sea, received updated targeting coordinates. Their mission was not the bunker, not yet. They aimed at the mountain itself. A salvo of 24 BGM-109 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles launched toward the Zagros range. Each one was programmed to strike the cliff faces directly above the suspected Iranian launch points. The goal was terrain disruption. The Tomahawk impacts triggered localized rock slides, burying cave entrances and forcing the mobile Bavar 373 launchers to move out from cover and into the open. At the same time, U.S. Navy EA-18G Growlers surged forward and unleashed overwhelming electronic warfare pressure, flooding Iranian frequencies with so much interference that operators could barely coordinate with their own units. With the launchers exposed and their communications disrupted, Israeli F-35 is moved into position. From 60 miles away, they fired AGM-158J ASSMER standoff missiles. Using infrared guidance, the missiles locked onto the heat signatures of the Iranian missile trucks, dismantling the defense network one position at a time. With the outer defense ring collapsing and the downed Allied pilot covered by relentless A-10 fire overhead, the route was finally open for the main strike force. Two B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, which had been circling at 40,000 feet, began their final approach. Their target was not simply the facility itself, but its weakest point, a precise tectonic fault line in the granite directly above the enrichment lab. The B-2S released two GBU-57A/B massive ordnance penetrators. Each 30,000-pound bomb was built for one purpose: to do what almost no other weapon can, slam through solid rock and keep going. The penetrators struck the mountain at more than 1,100 miles per hour. For a few long seconds, there was no blast, only the chilling sound of hardened steel driving deeper and deeper through nearly 400 feet of granite. Then the fuse triggered. What followed was not just an explosion, but a devastating underground shockwave. The pressure had nowhere to escape, so it tore through the Iranian tunnel network with overwhelming force. Hidden passageways leading back toward IRGC barracks became death traps in an instant. The enrichment centrifuges were crushed as the mountain itself caved in around them. From the view of U.S. satellites overhead, the entire ridgeline appeared to sink several feet into the earth. The second lab, once believed to be untouchable, was gone. Tehran answered the loss of its main nuclear asset with a frantic and poorly coordinated release of nearly everything it still had in the region. This was desperation at full scale. From mobile launchers concealed inside civilian warehouses along the coast, the IRGC launched a large wave of Shahed 136 drones and Fateh 110 short-range ballistic missiles. Their target was not the carriers. Instead, they aimed for Allied air bases, hoping to shake the coalition and force it to back down. But the sky over the Gulf of Oman quickly turned into a graveyard for Iranian hardware. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, working in coordination with the UAE's Falcon batteries, built a layered interception shield. The USS Arleigh Burke used its Aegis system to track more than 50 incoming targets at once. It then launched volleys of RIM-174 SM-6 missiles to intercept the high-speed Fateh 11 OHS as they re-entered the atmosphere. The SM-6 is a weapon built for exactly that kind of moment: fast, precise, and capable of striking maneuvering targets at the edge of space. While the SM-6 handled the ballistic threat, shipboard close-in defense systems and Allied F-16 took on the drone wave. The Shahed 136s, moving at roughly 115 miles per hour, were far easier targets. Allied pilots used their 20mm cannons to pick them off one by one, turning the swarm into a chain of burning fragments over the water. Tehran had thrown its last punch, and it was stopped without forcing the Allied fleet to even alter course. At that point, Iran's military posture in the region had been severely weakened. Its most secret assets had been reduced to dust beneath the Zagros Mountains. For military analysts around the world, the engagement delivered several hard lessons. The most important was this: even the most heavily fortified underground site can no longer guarantee protection in an era of fully integrated warfare. Tehran trusted the mountains to shield its program, but it underestimated the information advantage held by the U.S. and its allies. When the RC-135V rivet joint detected uranium particulates, it demonstrated that modern surveillance can expose what older military thinking assumed could remain hidden forever. The fusion of satellite intelligence, signals collection, and high-altitude atmospheric sampling has fundamentally changed the game. The age of truly secret underground laboratories is fading fast. Another major lesson was the value of Allied coordination. The United States could have carried out the strike on its own. But the involvement of Israel, Jordan, and the UAE transformed it from a single operation into a broader regional alignment. That coordination sent a clear message. Washington no longer has to operate alone. Instead, it functions as the central node in a wider network of shared capability. The way Israeli F-35s exchange targeting data with U.S. Tomahawk systems through cooperative engagement showed that in modern conflict, software and connectivity can matter just as much as hardware. An alliance operating on the same digital framework becomes extraordinarily difficult to counter. The final and perhaps most sobering lesson was the price of deception. Iran's earlier effort to draw the U.S. into a phantom-based trap only made American surveillance more alert and more precise. By the time Tehran moved to shield the real laboratory, the U.S. was already operating with a top-tier level of awareness. Iran's chaotic response also showed that asymmetric tactics lose their value once they are fully understood. Once a major power decodes the pattern, every repeated move becomes easier to predict and easier to defeat. The lesson is simple. When a technologically advanced military enters a high-intensity confrontation, terrain alone is no guarantee of protection. From the first detection of isotopes to the final SM-6 interception, the entire mission unfolded with a level of precision and coordination that the IRGC could not match. That is what defines modern American military power. Not noise, not drama, but disciplined execution. There is a certain weight in seeing a 30,000-pound GBU 57A/B, a weapon that costs millions to produce and demands enormous effort to maintain, perform exactly as intended at the decisive moment. The strike did not just remove a lab, it shattered confidence in the idea that geography alone could provide security. The Zagros Mountains were no longer a shield, they had become a vulnerability. The hidden tunnels were no longer protected routes, they had become traps. For the sailors aboard the USS Arleigh Burke and the pilots flying the Israeli Adirs, the operation ended not with celebration, but with a quiet confirmation on a screen. Target neutralized. There was no dramatic finale because by that stage the outcome had already been decided. As the Allied fleet returned to its patrol stations, global energy markets kept moving as usual, largely unaware that one of the region's most dangerous hidden facilities had just been erased from the map. What ended the threat was not one weapon alone, but a flawlessly coordinated system of systems controlling the air, the sea, and the battle space below. What stands out most to you in this operation? Was it the raw force of the 30,000-pound bunker buster, or the way the U.S. and its allies fused data to overwhelm Iran's defenses? The Zagros range has hidden secrets for centuries, but in the age of the kill web, secrets are much harder to keep. If you want to stay up to date on military technology and see how advanced alliances adapt faster than their rivals, be sure to subscribe. We break down the weapons, strategy, and decision-making that shape today's world. Share your view in the comments. Would you have committed more Tomahawks, or was the MOP always the only realistic option?